don't think there's a right time.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless like you're getting a 7% interest rate. That's pretty.
Yeah, yeah. then wait, relax.
Like just go off of the interest rates. If it's super high like that, just wait a little bit. It will go down. Like
Right.
for you, you said that you got something like
4.75, I think is what.
and
But that's because
it went down.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So I would say just probably go off of that. But I think the biggest takeaway for me to let people know is like you can do it. It's not a hard thing at all. Anything is possible. You might think like I can't afford that, but at the end of the day, you probably can if you budget wisely
and you start like eating at home,
right? Making your own food.
Yeah.
Making your own foods. Yes, and like if you're living with your parents right now, save. That's the best thing you can do. Save.
What it do, what it do? It's your boy Tony and Nation, and we're back with another episode. And I always tell you guys, like, this is fire. First of all, new setting, you know what I'm saying? If you guys are feeling the vibe, we're going to be shooting here more, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, I always say we got fire in the building. This is hot. This is another episode that you need to hear. But this the one, man. I'm telling you, this the one. We got young, black, beautiful queens. Young, black, beautiful queens really doing it, man. And I wanted these people to come out here. These people are like, I know we're here talking about house owning and all that, but they do other stuff. It's like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? But that's not the point. The point is like inspire people and to share our journey on like, you know, how the house buying process has been. And I have two people here that I want them to introduce themselves and kind of go over. We're going to be tackling it. Let me not even like say too much because I don't want to like, let's get into it. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Everything Young and More.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to know what you guys' names are and what you do. Oh, wow. So young.
I am Stephanie Geshohe. I'm 25 years old. I'm in human resources and project coordination, and I too am a aspiring real estate investor.
Dang, y'all got aspirations. I feel like I arrived. I need to change. I need to work on my stuff. So you are doing engineering.
Yep.
That's crazy. And you're doing HR. So you're like you got people like you tell to do stuff. Dang, I get told what to do. I need to keep dreaming. But yeah, I wanted to have you guys on the show to kind of talk about, because you guys are young. The whole point of the show is to like bridge the gap between the older generation and the young generation. And the more part is like this, like where we talk about things that we've done, things that young people are doing, and highlighting those things, and even be able to inspire other people who kind of don't know what they're doing and stuff like that. And I think it's cool that you guys are like, man, 26 and 25. People own houses at like 40, you know, and you need like two people at the same, like you probably have to be saving for a while before you do that. And you guys are doing it super young. I'm happy to join you guys as a house owner. You know what I'm saying?
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I want to know about the process, and I want to know, my first question is like, and any of you guys could take that question and like answer first, is like, how did you start, like initially, like how did you even come up with the idea? Like why did you decide to buy instead of rent, like in the first place?
Well, for me, I didn't know right off the bat when I was looking. I first started looking at apartments, and then I was looking at duplexes and just townhouses. And one day I was just like, why are these prices seeming like I could get a house? So from there, I was just like, all right, let me do this research. So then I started looking at houses. And some houses were cheaper than like an apartment. And I'm like, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking at houses because it just makes more sense. Like you get more for your buck in a house because that's what you're paying for. Yeah. So that's what I started doing. And I just started looking at houses, and that's how I got the one that I'm in.
Okay, we're going to talk about when you started that so we can get some highlights. But yeah, what about you, Liz?
For me, I have had a couple of years under my belt being a renter, and I was quite frankly getting tired of it. But I also had aspirations to one day become a real estate investor. So I started first kind of like educating myself on the different aspects of real estate investing and how to start out, not really having any examples in my life. So just tapping into different resources, and from there just kind of crunching numbers and figuring out what would best fit to help me get to that place where I can get a home that I could afford, that fit my budget, and just kind of go from there.
Wow. And you said you didn't have any examples, and I'm sure Steph probably didn't, because she said she was looking at apartments. How did you even like? Because I know buying a house is a process. Like you need to have, well, for me it's different, and we'll get into it. But like you need to have like at least 2 years like working straight. Your credit report has to be right and stuff like that. So you didn't have any examples. You like were looking for apartments. How did you have to wait 2 years to build like something, or how did you guys like even start the process, and where did you actually start from?
Yeah, so I did not have to wait 2 years, no. And I didn't have any role models either. Thankfully, I've been working for some time, and I just built up my credit. Wow. And I didn't need to worry about like how long I've been at a job, because I had been working for a long time. So it was a really smooth transition for me. And I never, like Liz said, she had experience renting. I had been with my parents the whole time, so I didn't really have that experience. So it was just like I wasn't scared from like going from my parents' house to my own place, because like it just felt right. It just felt like that was something that I needed to do.
Yeah.
But no, to answer your question, no, I didn't need to wait 2 years.
Wow, lucky you.
For me, I guess by the time I had figured out that I wanted to own my own house property, I already had the 2 years working experience.
Okay.
But I had wanted to get a place a few years ago, but there were a lot of like barriers to getting there, and I'm pretty sure we'll probably get to that point.
Yeah.
But by the time that I was finally ready, found the places that I wanted to get, I did have the experience. And also, to backtrack a little bit, I did have models in my family for people that own homes, but not for the purposes of real estate investing. Okay. So not looking at a place as like a forever home. This is where we're going to raise our kids and stuff, but like how to evaluate whether a place is really like a deal for that kind of purpose. Had graduated from college. By the time I wanted to invest and actually become a homeowner, I was working as an engineer for at least 2 years, and then I didn't find a place immediately, and I had moved quite a bit in between that time, and then even moved jobs. Luckily, by the time I moved to my new job where I'm currently at, the experience was not too far off to where the lenders, they weren't telling me like, oh, you switched, you have to have like actual experience. Right. It was all within the same field, so they didn't look at that as like risky. So that's why for me, I didn't have to like prove a separate 2 years of experience.
Okay. While we're on that, can I ask you, you said something about like, so what happens for people that don't know when you switch a job, like while you're trying to buy a house, like how does that go? What impact does that have?
So it's a negative impact if you're switching from like a different field to another field. So like, for example, say you were like a business owner previously for most of the time. If you're ready to buy a house, lenders will want to look at like your tax payments for those 2 years. Right. But say you were a business owner for 1 year, you go work for someone for another year. Now you have two different types of work experience. Right. So it might be a little trickier to like get the loans. So
they would rather like have you working on in the same field, right?
Same industry, pretty much.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And then I know it's like one thing about like wanting to buy a house, and I'm looking to get from an apartment and get now a house, and the same thing with you is time. But like that's the mind and the idea. But like to making it happen, what challenges did you guys have? And I want to hear all of it. Like I want to every part. Like what challenges did you guys face in buying like your place?
For me, the challenges that I first faced, and I was looking, I I didn't really have any help. I was just like, I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell my parents. I was just like, I'm gonna do
What?
this.
Your parents did not know?
When I was
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Like they essentially found out when I had already purchased the house.
Wow.
Yeah,
Bro,
because
how do
I
you
wanted
guys-
it to be a surprise. Like I didn't want them to know along the way. Like
that's dope, man.
yeah, I sat them down and I was like, guess what? And I told them, and they were super happy. But what I faced was, I started looking at houses, and you have to be pre-approved. So you gotta know what you can afford and what you can't afford. So I just went on.
Well, quick question: what is a pre-approved? What does that mean?
So you have to pre-approval is like you can't look for a house that's like 500,000 if you can't afford it. So you have to they have to make sure that what you're looking for you can afford it.
Yeah.
Because there's no point of wasting your time and saying like, hey, I want to go look at this house because your hopes are
gonna
go down the
you
drain.
can't afford that.
You can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you talk to somebody, get pre-approved, know how much you can spend and what you can afford. And I didn't know that at first. So I had already been talking to an agent, and I was like, I want to go look at this house. And he was like, do you know what your pre-approval is? And I was just like, no. And he was like, all right, so let's do this for you. And the house that I did want, it was like the very first house I mentioned to him that I wanted to look at. He was like, okay, now that we have your results back, you can't afford it at this time.
He said, nope.
Yeah, and so that was like a challenge that I had to go through at first because like my heart was broken, yes,
Dang.
but you gotta know that before you start looking.
Okay, that's key. So that's the challenge you had. You were out here looking at $1 million houses, and they said, "Hey, relax. You're coming in too strong."
Man, it's because I didn't put a price range. You know, when you're looking at houses,
But like I was on Zillow looking
when
at.
you don't know, you're looking at houses, and then you're just like, all right, I want to stay in this certain area, and it just shows you a list of houses.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was doing the same thing, man. And what about you, Liz?
Yeah, so kind of similar experience, but I guess to add on to your previous question about preparing for it.
Yeah.
So the pre-approval, you go and get that from a lender, and like the pre-approval usually is dependent on like a number of things, but like mostly your credit.
That's big.
And your debt to income ratio. So they're not only looking at like what you do for your job, they want to know that it's like a stable job, and like you're consistently getting the income, and that you are responsible. So like your credit score has to be pretty solid. I don't know what they are these days because the market's been crazy, but like when I applied to get like a decent credit score, it had to be like minimum 740.
I think it's about the same.
It was the same for you guys.
Yeah.
So there's still programs where you can get pre-approval with under 740, but if you want to get like a good decent score, it has to be at least 740. So
yeah, because actually your credit score also affects how much you pay for your PMI. So in PMI is like if you're putting down less than 20%, you have to pay PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. And if I have like a 680, it's gonna be like way more. It's gonna cost me more monthly than if I had like a 740, 750. Like if you got a 750, you're like, actually I think from like 740, 750, you're like in the 800s. Like they don't look at too much into it, and that like matters to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got that's the challenge. That's the only challenge you had.
Well, it wasn't.
I'm like, wow, you really.
It wasn't like a challenge, but a challenge because kind of similar to like Steph. It's like you're on Zillow, you're on Redfin, you're like, ooh, I want that, but it's like you have this in the back of your head, like, man, you can't afford that.
Yeah.
So it's either you have to obviously get your income up, which is really hard to do with where you're at, or kind of bring, I don't want to say standards down, but like
No, but it's kind of the reality.
Yeah, your expectations down and make it fit to what you're looking for. So that was probably my biggest challenge. And then also because I was looking at places more from a standpoint of like, is this really an investment property? Like, could it work as that?
Yeah.
I also had to be like even more critical of the places. So I might like the place, but it just doesn't fit what I'm looking for. So in terms of like, can this be a rental property? Is
Right.
it, do the numbers make sense? Does the location make sense? Like, what can fit here? So I had a lot more criteria I had to take into consideration when I was looking at places. And I was working with an agent that I had found through a website called Bigger Pockets. And that is a website that's more specific to real estate investing.
Okay.
It's kind of like Reddit, but for real estate investing.
Yeah.
So from there, I found the agent I was working with that was local to the area. And so he was also an investor. So that was one thing that I really wanted to make sure, like, the person is doing it themselves. So they also have the eye of, like, is this really something that you can convert into a rental property? Can it actively be a rental property? And they're familiar with the area, and then like leveraging their networks as well.
Right.
So that was another challenge for me, because I would talk to like certain agents and it's like, they're really nice and it would be nice to work with you guys, but it's not really helping me like with what I'm trying to do right now. So also trying to filter out like lenders, agents, that in itself was like a challenge for me.
Okay, so more like it's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
And then you guys bought your houses at different like time periods, right? Because I think Steph, you bought yours in, was it 2020 or 2021?
So yes, I did sign my paperwork in 2020.
Yeah. So and back
like
then
towards the end.
it was like stuff was good, huh? So everything was just like just smooth. Can you talk about like the whole process? Like, what'd you get on your? And you don't have to if you don't want to. Any of you guys, like your interest rates and like how that like plays into however much you pay. Don't talk about how much you pay. I don't really want to know that, but like I want to know about the interest rates and the different times, because the market back then was like just so smooth and like needed people to tap in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to get a 2.75 interest rate. Wow. And
it sounds so beautiful. 2.5? Okay.
2.75. But
2.75.
Yeah, I do know a lower interest rate does make your monthly payments lower. So that was the leverage and the benefit that I had.
Wow. Okay. And for you, Liz, so you bought your whole, like, when you were looking to buy the house, the whole time it was just for investment. Like, you weren't thinking like, I'm gonna stay in here. It was just like, I wanna, make sure that I can make something out of it.
So it was that, in addition to, because I purchased mine earlier in 2022.
Okay.
And at
so
that
you were
time,
still like,
yeah, so my interest rate was also pretty solid. It was like 3.25.
Wow.
So very grateful for that. But then Steph talked about 2.75. I'm like, wow.
I need that 2.75, man.
2.75, and it does make like a really big difference. Huge. Like, you think it's like, oh, it's just 0.25%, 0.5%. It makes a big difference. It's like hundreds of dollars difference on monthly payments. Yeah. But anyways, so I was looking at it from, depending on like wherever the market is going. I don't want to get a place just for investment purposes. Like, I need to be able to like actually comfortably live here, because I don't know where the market is going. I need to afford it. That's the main thing. And also, like, I just wanted the flexibility to like comfortably live where I'm at whenever I decide to move out, or because my place actually has a single family, and then it has an accessory dwelling unit. Yeah. So I'm currently renting out the main unit, and then I'm staying in the accessory unit.
You say they're paying your mortgage.
And they're paying my mortgage.
Got it.
So that's what I was looking to have. But like, in the case, I don't know what weird thing's going to happen in the world. If for whatever reason I can't find a tenant, I need to be able to afford that place. Yeah. So that's just, for me, just kind of being like super risk averse by nature, just covering,
Yeah. And I think that's good though, because you don't want to just get into something that
that's the main thing. Like, a lot of people buy properties just for the sake of it, but they have to be like really conservative, like with their numbers, like run their numbers really well. Yeah. And just prepare like if you have vacancies, which is like inevitable,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Can you afford it? And then if you want to be a real estate investor, you need to show in the future like your properties are bringing in income. Otherwise, you can't really keep doing that again. So
Right.
that's what I was looking at.
Okay, and then the other question I want to ask you guys is that I'm sure there are different loans and stuff out there, but the popular ones are FHA and conventional. Which ones did you guys go with and why? And then can one of you guys explain what FHA means for people that don't know the difference? You say, Liz, go for it. You're very knowledgeable in this.
Yeah, so from my experience, from what I've learned so far, the biggest difference between the FHA and the conventional, for conventional, you can get, well, actually for all of them, the biggest advantage for FHA, for especially for first-time home buyers, is you can put down a lower down payment and get pretty decent like interest rate, but it helps basically like usher in first-time home buyers. And you can use an FHA on multifamily properties. So multifamily meaning a lot will have like 1 to 4 units.
Yeah.
And you can use that with an FHA, but you can't use that with the conventional.
Right.
The biggest difference though for conventional is if you put a down payment less than 20%, there's the PMI that you mentioned earlier, but you don't have an additional insurance like the FHA does.
Yeah.
And the interest rate tends to be lower.
Right.
So there's a little bit more flexibility with the conventional versus like an FHA. I don't know if that's what your lenders told you guys.
Yeah, and then with the FHA, it doesn't like the interest, the PMI, private mortgage insurance, doesn't wear off. Like after 20%,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it
That's
still
other
continues. Like you have to pay that for the rest of the time of the loan that you have. But with conventional, once you hit that 20%, then it drops that and you start paying just the rest, like the interest rate, the interest and the principal, and then the insurance, like if you have that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only way you can get out of that extra insurance with the FHA is if you refinance,
Right. Yeah.
which is a really expensive process in itself, unless there's an opportunity that the interest rates go down
Yeah.
to
Right.
like steps levels.
I'm tapping in.
Steps level.
I'm gonna get like 2
and
houses.
do it. But yeah, so, and that's the other thing too, like I had to consider at the time when I was looking at properties and I had my pre-approval, I was quoted like one interest rate at first. It was like, it was even lower than 3.2. I think it was even like maybe a 3. And then that's when the market started going like super crazy.
Yeah.
And my lender's like, you need to lock this in like right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, I don't know what to I can't really help you. You might have to just get whatever and then refinance in the future. But we don't know like if the market's gonna turn around. We don't know when.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to bank on like buying a place assuming like I'll just refinance right after.
Yeah.
So those are like some of the challenges too that I was coming across.
Okay. And then what did you end up getting, like conventional or
Conventional?
Conventional.
Yeah.
Same thing with you, Steph?
Yeah, I did do conventional because I was looking for the lower interest rate.
Wow,
For sure.
Man, you didn't even have to look. Like for me, I'm Steph. You really got it like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack a little bit. What I want to ask you guys, because I posted something on social media, for people to like ask questions of things that they would want to know, and somebody asked about like the house hunting process. I want to hear all you guys because we both have different experiences, and then I'll share how that was like. From putting up an offer and all that. Like, let's just talk about that and how that worked out for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. For me, house hunting, it was a little bit of a trip because I wasn't 100% sure about the area I wanted to live in. So I was just bouncing around from different areas to different areas. And then in the area that I found that I wanted to live, I would go look at the houses. And one thing about me is I'm very observant, so I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at everything around me.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this one house in particular.
Yeah.
I went to go look at it with my agent, and the neighbors happened to be outside, and they were just like, they were not friendly at all. They were just looking at me up and down, mean mugging.
Wow.
And so I was just like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah,
and
I need peace, man.
That's very important. It's really important because it's like if something were to happen, God forbid, and like your neighbors are the ones that you see every single day. You might not see them, but you're with them all the time, like around them all the time. So you want to make sure that you have good peace with your neighbors. And from getting that vibe just by looking at a house, I was like, this is not it. This is not what I want to put myself through. This is not where I want my family to put themselves through. So I just had to make sure the area and the neighbors were good. And like, so you're saying house hunting, right?
Yeah. So that's
like just in general.
Yeah, like because even like and it's like the whole process. Like you would go look at a house. Maybe you just the neighbor looked at you funny. Don't like that house. You go somewhere. Like for me, I went like I looked at like one time I looked at 9 different houses in the same day, and it was like there was like only one that I was like it was cool because like one of them had like. I think they had a dog as a pet, and it was like dog smell everywhere. The house was nice, but it was like the other one I went. It was like the bedroom looked like the master bedroom. It's like one person type of master bedroom. I was like, no, you know what I mean? And that's a whole process of that. And even like when we were one house I found on Redfin, I was gonna put an offer for. And I asked the agent, it was a different agent than the one I ended up going with. And I was like, yeah, go ahead and put an offer in. Right when she was about to go do that, somebody else had already put they just needed to take it down, but somebody else had bought it. So it's like, it sends you back again and then you have to go out there and like, it's a process. So yeah,
Yeah. And I realized when you're out looking at houses, you're trying to figure out, or you should already know what's important to you. Like, does it have a garage? Right. Does it have stairs? Or just things that you're like, can I live with it or can I live without it?
Yeah.
And you're talking about scents. Yeah, that's major. There's this beautiful house that I looked at, and as soon as you walked in, it smelled like cigarettes.
Oh.
And like that's something that you don't want to live with.
And it's
like,
hard to take off.
Yeah. You want the house and it's beautiful, like you can see yourself living in it, but cigarette smell?
No. Nah. And then how long did the process take for you? Like from when you... Let's go back all the way to when you were looking at them apartments and then you said no and then you went to the house. How long did the whole process of like the pre-approval to like when you closed like take you?
So the apartments, I was doing that on my own. I wasn't looking at apartments as an agent.
No, yeah, right. But I mean like from giving up on that dream and starting out the new house dream, like how long did it take you from pre-approval to closing on the house?
It wasn't that long. So like 6 months. Really?
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Yeah, it's not bad.
Months.
Did you have to so 6 months, so like the first time you got your initial pre-approval, did you have to do another pre-approval?
No.
Really?
What? How? I thought it's like 90 days.
Yeah.
I feel like 2020 versus like 2022, like with my experience, when I got my pre-approval, they're very adamant. They're like, this is only valid for like 180 days. After that, you have to like get a new one. Yeah. Just because the interest rates were changing so much. But,
wow. Yeah. And then what about you, Liz?
Let's see. So I had moved to the area late 2021. And even before I had moved, I was on like Zillow and stuff looking at different areas, kind of crunching numbers on my own, hitting up like different agents and stuff, just so by the time I get there, I'd pretty much be like hitting the ground running. So as far as like from when I got pre-approved to finally getting my place, I would say it took me maybe like 2 months.
Oh, okay. Wow,
so I think a lot of that, I say it's kind of luck, low key, because I didn't really look at a lot of places just because I had like certain criteria. And then also the agent I was working with, he already knew like what I had in mind. He had kind of curated like certain places that might fit. And then, so like when I went to go visit them and kind of same thing, just kind of checking the vibes of like the different areas, I could cross out pretty quickly like, this isn't really gonna work, or what kind of tenants would I have if I live in this area, like that kind of thing. So I would say it was about 2 months.
Okay, and was your agent like helping you a lot, like in sending you listings and stuff like that to kind of decide, and then you would go and see them?
Yeah. Okay. So he sent me Yeah, he sent me listings like maybe every other day or something like that. It almost felt like spam.
Seriously.
Like first thing in the morning, I'm like going through my email, checking through.
Right,
all
and
of
some
it.
of them would be like repeating sometimes.
Right,
Like, I'd be like,
yeah,
"Why you seen
exactly.
this?"
I already saw this.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the only agent I had like talked to. So like other agents that I had talked to, they were sending me
The
listings.
same thing.
And I'm like all excited, like, oh, we got something new. It's the
like
same thing.
thing.
But actually, the place that I finally got wasn't on the MLS, which is the market where like Zillow, Redfin, they're all populate. It was an off market. So
Ooh, how'd you get that?
Why?
No, how'd you get it? Like, how'd you find out about it?
So since he's an investor, he has a network of other
Connections.
investors. So he knew specifically like what I was looking for. And so the woman that was that owned the home, she was trying to sell it. So basically it was like, do you want to check it out? I went, checked it out. I was like, wow, this is like hitting. So put an offer in pretty quickly. So that's also why I was like, this was mine. This one.
Yeah.
So after that, it was the whole process of like the inspections, backtracking a little bit. So originally for my first investment property, I had wanted to buy out of state. And so I was learning about how to do that because out of state, mostly because California,
it's expensive, man. Too expensive.
you already know. You already know. So there's places in the Midwest where they're selling homes for like 60,000, 70,000,
And they're fire houses.
100,000. Hella nice.
Yeah.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, everything, full yard,
Right.
stuff like that. So I was like, okay, let me start there because you can actually put like 20% down on that. Versus out here. Yeah. Anyways, so I was working with. I had gone through like a mentorship program where it was investors that were actively investing out of state, and I had like put in offers in like 1 or 2 houses, and like the inspection reports would be all types of crazy. I was like, all right, maybe let's just start at home first. I also had a little bit of experience as far as like what to watch out for, and also like it's hard. One, it's out of state. It's doable.
Yeah.
Not to say like it's not doable, but I think for the first one, I was like, let's venture into that a little bit later. So with like that experience now coming into like places I can actually physically visit, I think it also helped me a lot. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Steph, did you find yours like on Zillow and you were like, this one, and then you got it? I'm like,
well, it's actually pretty funny because how I was saying it took me like 6 months. Within those 6 months, I had put an offer on like 2 other houses that I got in. So like I was supposed to live in those 2 other houses, but I was just like, let's cancel it. Like I don't want it anymore.
So you could do that.
So yeah, so the day that I put in, or no, the day that I saw my house, it was on Redfin actually. And I had already been accepted for another house. Like I was actually at the other house and I not living at it. Like I was just doing like a walkthrough and stuff. And my agent was there and I was just like, so I have something to tell you.
They're like, here we go.
Maybe stressed. And I had already done it to him like a previous time. And he was just like, you don't like the house, don't you? Yeah, I was just like, I'm sorry, no.
Wait, so you can take out your offer?
Yeah.
Did you have to put like a deposit? What is it?
It's earnest money.
On the earnest money.
Like I wasn't at that point yet.
Oh, so you hadn't put the offer in?
No, like I put the offer in, but I didn't have
bring the paperwork for you to put the earnest.
Yeah.
In. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that part yet. And so I showed him the house, and he was like, okay. He was like, I could already tell that you didn't love this house because I was just like nitpicking at stuff. And then he was like, give me a couple minutes. He went, made a phone call, and literally within 20 minutes, we went and looked at the house that I'm at. And then he was just like, if you want this, you got to put in an offer like now. And so at the end of the night, I went and put an offer. The next day, I heard that I got it, and I was just like, look at God.
No, for real.
Amen. That's crazy. And then I actually just saw somebody else is asking about like how much. They're asking a lot though, but we're just gonna. It was like, how much did you buy your house for? What's the interest? How much are you paying for mortgage? But we can talk about like the range of how much you guys bought your houses for. And I think even just seeing like the different times, like you bought in 2020 you said 2020, and yours was 2021 or the beginning of 2022.
Beginning of 2022.
And then I bought mine now. So it's like, how much did you guys? What's the range of your houses?
I'll go first. Mine was in the 500s.
Oh, you're a millionaire.
No, I don't
know.
Not at all. Mine, I bought it at 310, but it was listed under.
Sheesh.
Oh, whoa. Okay. So wait. So how does that work?
So, because of how nice the house was, I knew that it was gonna have a lot of offers.
Yeah.
So,
I see. So to get it. So
yeah.
Wow, that's dope. And obviously the times. That's what I was saying is like when you bought it, the market was hot. Everybody was like trying to get a house, and it was the interest rate. I mean, 2.75. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you needed to put like a little bit more so that the person could be like, yeah, let's get it to her, right? Yeah. And was it the same thing for you, Liz, when you bought yours? Like, was there a lot of people?
At the time, the market was hot. There were bidding wars, but because mine was off market, I didn't have to go through a bidding war. So that's part of why like the process was a little bit faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool thing about even buying now. Like for me, when they first like listed this house, well, it was actually another house that I was looking at in the same neighborhood, and then they had it at 475, and then I went to look at it, and then somebody else beat me to it, and they put an offer, and they went with it, and then I was like, my dream has been crashed. I'm buying a new house and whatnot. And then the next day they called me and like, Anthony, guess what? I said, what? And then it was like, we found another house that's similar to that one, and it's the same price. Would you like to put an offer on it? And they said that the model is different. Then I was like, I would like to see it before we do that. And then luckily, was able to see the house. And then I was like, you know what? It's actually cool. It's not bad. It's a new build, so it's probably gonna take time before I have to like do anything to it. And then for me, I had known like the market was going down. Like it wasn't like as strong as it was like in 2020, 2021. Yeah. So I said, you know what? Let's take out like 7,000 to 10,000 off from.
You feel a little spicy.
Yeah, just tell them I want to pay less than that. And then they're like, oh, okay. Are you sure you want to do that? I was like, yeah, let's do that. And if I don't get it, we'll just keep looking. And then the lady was like, okay, let's do 14, so that even if like they say, let's do 10, like it still meets your what you're asking for. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And I even like brushed, like at this point, I'm just doing it just to do it because it was like that was another agent and the one I was working with. So when I did that, it was like more of like, man, if you get it, it's cool. If not, like I don't care type of thing. And then they called me like I think it was like the next day, and then they were like, your offer got accepted. Dang. And I said, are you serious? Like I was like back on this one. And then it was so sad that I had to call the other guy and be like, hey bro, I know we've been looking for houses and stuff with you for the last few weeks, but
it's like feels like a breakup.
Yeah.
It was so I wanted to text them, but I was like, you know what, that's rude. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so actually since you bring that up, and I pretty sure I shared this experience with you when I was working with lenders. Yeah. So when I had put my offer in to my place, I was working with one specific lender, but the interest rate that they were giving me wasn't that great. I was like, so I was still kind of looking at different lenders and talking to different lenders, and then one lender finally did give me a better interest rate, and I was like, dang, now I have to I put my offer in. So you're not locked in to working with that specific lender, but it sometimes makes things a little bit tricky with like kind of closing out the whole process. Yeah. But luckily I had like a little bit of time to where I could switch to the lender, and I had to like have a talk with myself like this. I felt really bad about it, and I was gonna be like just text her, but I called her instead. And she was like, oh, no. So I called her at first, and she was like, oh, I'll call you back. I'm at a funeral right now. Oh, my God.
Like, never mind.
Yeah. I was like, how much do I want to ruin her day? Right. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll call you later then.
Man, you were going to kill her hopes.
Yeah. Oh, man. I felt so bad. And then we talked later, and she's like, oh, okay. Like, they understand. Obviously, it's like business at the end of the day. And I think something I had to remind myself was like, this is gonna be the biggest purchase of your life.
That's true.
Once you close on this thing, it's on you. You might still have connections with the lenders in some ways, but ultimately you're the one that's paying everything. And chances are your mortgage will get transferred to another service loaner, which is what ended up happening to mine anyways. So I think like kind of like you having that whole like not scarcity mindset about it. It's like, if I don't get it, I don't get it. There's a lot of opportunities out there. I think going in with that mindset is like super important. Because like if you get too attached, now you're stuck for something for like 30 something years.
That's crazy.
So having that like detachment in a way, that's I think that's really important.
And I think that's key, because like another thing that happened to me, and I think you kind of have to know like what you want. Like you said, it's the biggest investment that you're gonna make for your life. Because when I started doing like the house stuff like early this year. We're in like what, November now? Oh, no, we're December. Oh, we're in December. This beginning of December. But like when I started working with like Loan Depot. I mentioned that to you, but and then
that's who I was working
with.
Sorry.
We just keep leaving them. I worked with them, and then like the lady again, super nice. Like she was willing to ask, like for me to ask her any questions. She was like, call me anytime if you have questions. If you think they're stupid, like I want to hear them. And I would ask, because she said, so I'd be like, hey, what do you think about this? Is this like, to try and like find out all. And it was like for like over 6 months that I worked with her, right?
Wow.
And then right before when I was looking towards the end, like this is in before, this was like in September-ish, July, I think, area time frame, is when I found out about like, no, I might be off with the timeline, but it was like recently when I found out about this place. And then I found out that if I went with with this house, I could also go with a lender, and they would help me cover some closing costs.
There you go.
So I was like, and it was like a lot, it was like 8,000 back or something. And then I looked at it and I'm like, I know I've been working with this lady and she's kind. I know I want to like help her, feed her family and stuff. But I gotta feed me, man. I gotta figure out like, So, and I had it like, it was so sad, man. I was like, hey,
because you built a relationship.
Right? And it felt like that's who's been helping me out like the whole time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's your biggest investment. You gotta just be like, I'm sorry, this is what is right for me. And I ended up going with these people, and the interest rates actually for them were higher, because now it's like 7%.
Good Lord.
And then I ended up like 7% is like, because when I started working with her, it was like 4.25, and that was like, I think it might be like May, June, like that time. And then when we're finishing out, she's like, well, Anthony, I'm looking at like 6. She said 6. I said 6. She's like, yeah, I'm looking at like 6.125. And then that makes like, it could be like a $200 difference or $300 difference in my mortgage, versus here where it's like 4.9, and then I can even buy back like some, and it drops it. So that's what I ended up. I went with this lender, and then I ended up buying some, so to reduce like my interest rate. And it's like really what you gotta do what's best for you, to be honest.
And obviously having like not ghosting the people you're working with.
Don't be rude about that.
Don't be rude. Because it's like rude. At some point maybe you might have to buy another place, and they might work for a different company. Like and
then somebody else asked like, I know it's probably different for you, Liz, so Steph, maybe this is for you, but they're asking, is this like your forever home? Is this like your first home, and then you're gonna end up, because I know Liz said that she bought her as an investment property, but even you can still answer by, are you gonna continue staying on the other side? Are you gonna rent it eventually? Or
so it's not my forever home. Okay. No, I wasn't looking for a forever home. I was looking for a starter home, to where I could live there, and then chances are I end up renting it out after I move out. So it's sort of the same with Liz. But I plan on having several other houses out there.
You say you want $1 million house. I hear you.
Hey, anything is possible.
No, that's facts.
No, that's true. For me also starter, but also something to like kickstart my investor journey. So I was definitely looking at places that had either like separate units altogether, or like big enough to where I can, when I move out, like I can easily rent it out, which for the area that I'm at, it is pretty easy to rent out. Like when I had put the main unit on the market, I had like 100 inquiries on the first week.
Good.
And so that was a relief for me, because
that's
like
amazing.
after I closed, that first month you don't immediately have to pay like the mortgage. So again, it was another clock, like, okay, we need to get this thing like locked in. So from there, like I did like the marketing and everything like that. I was able to get like a good tenant in. And then on the other end, just for me in the meantime, staying in the smaller unit, and then eventually when I get out, like also rent that one out.
And you give me ideas. Is the neighbor's like house available? Because I want to buy that. Yeah, at least even if I get 50 inquiries, like I'm good. Wow.
And I think also though, it another thing I learned too is even with like renting, it's like super seasonal. So like winter time, most people are really not trying to move around. It's also the holidays. So like when you're renting out really matters. Like spring and summer tends to be around the times where more people are like trying to move into new places.
Yeah. Then you just give me an idea. I never even thought about like renting this place, but if I ever feel like, you know, I need to move, because one thing somebody asked me when I bought the house, they're like, why would you do that? Like, you're gonna be there for the rest of your life for like 30 years. You're locked in there. And I was like, well, I didn't think about it like that. Like, I never thought about it like that. But either way, for me, I don't really care because I like California. But, like, if I ever need to move, I can just rent it out and, like, get another place. And even renting might be cheaper somewhere else.
Yeah, like, whatever extra rooms you have, too. There's a lot of options. Like, I'm sure, though, you probably don't want to have strangers in your house while you're there. But, like, just, like, the options are endless. And so, like, with the place that I have, it's like close to a really major university, a couple hospitals. There's like a lot of different businesses. So those were just kind of different things I was factoring in, like what's the likelihood that I can rent it? Because like a lot of people, like you would want to rent it, but is the demand for rent like really there? So those are like a lot of things I was taking into consideration as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I got another question to ask, like, how much down payment did you put? I don't want to hear the amount, but if you can do percentages, that'd be cool. And then like another one with somebody else, they asked like, how did you go about like even coming up with a down payment? Yeah.
I would say, I mean, just having like a separate account whenever I would get money in with my paycheck, just like deposit whatever amount. And
but I think that actually I feel like the question is more like it's harder now to save than like, because even me, when I'm thinking about you said you were renting.
Correct.
So it's like, how do you rent
so
and then save? Like, she's a millionaire, but I'm just
I
was just playing. But yeah, like that, because I think that's what people are asking.
One day though.
That's what people are asking, because I think most people can afford a mortgage.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact that you have to come up with like 20, 30, 40, 50,000, whatever amount to like get a house, that's like where most people feel like, oh, that's not, I can't do that. So, but your story is obviously yours, unique. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think fundamentally it's all like, with whatever you have, always keep your expenses lower than your income. So a lot of people have a lot of trouble with saving, like not starting with budgeting, like really taking an inventory, like, okay, I want this, but what am I actually doing to like help me get to that goal? And then if you are not really making enough money to put aside for those investment goals, figuring out like, what ways can I maximize my income? So what side gigs can I do? What career change do I need to do? For me, I had to like, I'm in a pretty well-paying field, but I knew that like certain sectors pay better than others. So like, what ways can I transition into there to kind of help speed up the process?
Oh, and that's what you said you did. Like, you had to switch from what you were doing to the other one.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to point out. Like, just because like I qualified for like a lot more than I bought, but looking at the payments on those things, I was like, bro, I can't pay that like amount. Like, I'd be broke. Like, that's like over 50% of like how much I make, and you know, later on you have like other things going on in life that you just can't control. So I think buying within like your means type of thing, you can't
below your means,
like,
actually. Even below. And I think I'll give credit to my parents, like they're really good about being examples of living like below your means. Just because you have it doesn't mean you need to spend it. And like same thing with when you talk to lenders, they'll be like, you can afford this, but in the back of your head you're still doing the math. You're like, okay, even if I pay for this max amount, it's eating up like 50% of how much I'm going to be taking
Right.
home, 60%, which really it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just because you can, like you said, just because you can afford it doesn't mean you should spend it.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Steph?
Yeah, because anything can happen. Like you do have to have that.
You
like
could lose your
emergency.
job. Yeah, like buffers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to have like that emergency savings. But for me, I really used living with my parents to an advantage.
Same.
Like I know some people out there are like, I don't want to live with my parents anymore, but essentially living with your parents is like the best thing you can do.
Facts.
Because
I would recommend that.
I recommend that 1,000% because that's where you save money.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where I saved most of my money because of course my parents didn't charge me rent, so like I didn't really have to pay for a lot of things outside of like rent. And you do have to budget, so I did make a budget and I planned everything out. A lot of things you have to make sure that you know what your wants and your needs are. So a lot of the things that you say you want,
Probably
put that to the side and just wait.
Yeah.
Chances are you're gonna end up saving more by resourcing your needs in first. So that is what I did, and then I know a lot of people like eating out.
Myself too, man. Oh my!
I do too.
I cook a lot. I cook a lot.
For real, it's like the most humbling thing that can happen to you. It's like getting your own place because you're gonna see yourself cooking a lot more.
That's me right now. I'm shopping at Winkle, man. I tried Costco. It wasn't for me.
Man, eating out is not where it's at. So like I would say just stay with your parents as long as you can, save as much as you can, and yes, like sometimes you might need to find like a side hustle, and that's okay. That's perfect because that's money that's gonna go into what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, right now I feel like I need what did you guys call it? Aspirations or side hustle? Because my backyard needs some work, and I didn't budget for that. Can we talk about like once you buy a house, you think that everything is set, and then you realize I'm sitting on the floor. I need a bed. I was living with my parents, and that was their table that I was using. Yeah. How did you guys did you guys have any like was it a shocker for you guys? Because for me, I was like, jeez, man, I need a carpet. I thought, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I want to hear about that.
It was a shocker for me, but lucky enough, my parents' house, they have a family room. So I was taking advantage of all sales that I could come across. So for example, my TV, I bought it like a year before I even knew that I was going to have a house. And I just stored it in there. Everything, like miscellaneous things like pots and pans was in my parents' family room. So that's just what I was doing, like along the way, like small miscellaneous things. Like yes, I didn't have room in there for a couch or a table. That was just stuff I bought once I got the place. To miscellaneous things I was just buying along the way, even though I didn't know where it was gonna go. So I think that's pretty smart because like you can be at Walmart or something and see like there's a sale for something that you would need. Get it. Yeah. You know, get it and store it somewhere. Yeah.
And then did you have to buy everything new or? Because I know some people, you know, you were like, oh, I need a new couch. I must have a new TV. The TV has to be new.
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, for me, I was pretty flexible. Well, luckily, when I bought my place, the main house, it had all the appliances there. So I didn't have to spend on that. But the accessory unit, I only had to get a fridge and the washer dryer. But I was also shocked, like, yo, this is still expensive. Like,
right, yeah.
I was like, why are fridges this much?
For real.
So that's definitely one of the shockers for me. And then, like, just little random things that'll pop up that I have to repair. Or, like, obviously, like, when you do the inspections and stuff, you do that to avoid like major ticket items. Like you don't want to have to redo plumbing, you don't want to have to redo your roof, things like that. But like just the little things add up, like pots and pans and different things like that. I was a renter, so I had a lot of that stuff already. But like a couch, for example, just trying to figure out like, okay, maybe I can hold off until the Black Friday sale to get this. And yeah, I
think that's something I experienced a lot. Like I would, cause you know, moving from my parents' house, it's like I didn't come with like anything, cause I barely I use just my clothes, kept the bed there that I was using. And then when you come here, it's like, well, I need to cook. All right, so I need some pots. And then the next thing I'm like, I got pots, so I will go and buy it, and I come, and then I got grocery, and I'm like, where am I gonna chop the stuff from? Like, I need a chopping board. And I've been figuring out like this every time, like as I go, is like when I realize like, oh, the sink is dirty. That means I need like what are those little cloth thingies? Like I need that. I go to the bathroom. I need like, you know what I mean? There's like little things that. And when I was doing my budget, I did like the bigger, like, you know, the couches, the bigger stuff, like washer and dryer and stuff like that. But with the other stuff, like I didn't even like have an idea. Like even the TV, I knew I needed a big TV, but I didn't really think TVs are like, they're expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like and I was like, wow. So I had a lot of those things that I went through that I wish, you know, I knew before. Yeah. Is there anything you guys would have done different than like from when you started to now?
Probably started sooner and get a lower interest rate.
Well, yeah.
I like that, man.
I mean, I still would say that. I feel like I should have started like 2019 or something. Wow. Yeah, but it is what it is.
So going back, if you had to do this all over again, like what would you guys do differently, knowing what you know now? Ain't nothing. Y'all stuff is just perfect.
No, not perfect, but I feel like everything in the experience kind of happened for a reason. Like even though it felt rushed in a lot of the processes, I would have said, I wish I knew this, but it's like you kind of learn as you go.
Yeah.
But so far
so good.
So far, so good. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And for looking at that camera right there, because I always like to do these little last takes. What would you say to the people who are always like, the people, two types of people who are like, don't buy a house. It's not an investment. It's going to cost you more type of thing. And then those people who are afraid because they think the market is not good right now, you know, because I've had that, like, I think growing up, because I wanted to buy a house since I was super young, but like, oh, right now it's not the right time. But it's like, is there ever a right time? So just talk to people individually, let them know, inspire them, and whether they should make that move or not, and any advices that you might have as we finish.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right time. Not unless like you're getting a 7% interest rate. That's pretty.
Yeah, then wait, relax.
Like just go off of the interest rates. If it's super high like that, just wait a little bit. It will go down. Like
right.
For you said that you got something like
4.75, I think is what. But that's because
it went down.
Yeah. So
I would say just probably go off of that. But I think the biggest takeaway for me to let people know is like, you can do it. It's not a hard thing at all. Anything is possible. You might think like, I can't afford that, but at the end of the day, you probably can if you budget wisely. And
you start like eating at home, right?
Making your own food.
Yeah. Making your own foods. Yes. And like, if you're living with your parents right now, save. That's the best thing you can do. Save. Yeah. And get out of there.
At 25. Wait, so you bought it, how old were you, Steph, when you bought it? That was 23 or 24?
So I was 23, about to turn 24.
Oh, okay, cool. That's dope. Yeah. And then what about you, Liz? What do you got to tell them?
We're looking at the camera.
Yeah, you can go ahead. So they can feel it.
Yeah, for me, I would say you'll hear a lot of different advice out there, but first figure out what's best for you. So one, taking an inventory of yourself. What can I even afford? If you can't afford it, what steps do I need to do to get to those steps? Living below your means, not within your means, like below, because again, it's probably going to be one of your most expensive investments in your life. And if you know you want to invest, I would personally say be a little bit more conservative about your approach to it. And you can do it. Like, you learn as you go, but if you keep the faith, if you use your resources, you ask a lot of questions, you'll be fine. You got it.
I like that. Live not within your means, because I think I do
below.
that below your means. I do that. I make $1, I spend that dollar.
Yeah.
No debt, but I do that. So I think
Yeah.
I live in that. That's a good
Oh
one.
yeah, no, that's important too.
Yeah.
Your debt, like your consumer debt, like credit card, like
Yeah.
get rid of that
yeah,
stuff.
Right.
absolutely.
Wipe that out, because that'll also impact your interest rate, your debt to income ratio. So it's like sometimes you can be your own enemy. So kind of wipe that stuff out and
Right.
then go from there.
Wow. Well, ladies, thank you guys so much for coming and sharing, and even willing to share you guys' houses in California. Is that it? But we're not gonna about the locations. Yeah, no, thank you guys so much for even willing to come on the podcast and like share what you guys know. I hope it's gonna help somebody. I know people ask, because like even when I was looking, I was going on YouTube, but if we had a video like this, I probably would have watched and got a lot from it. So I hope that somebody is gonna watch this video and actually be inspired and get like a lot of knowledge. And I just want to thank you guys for coming. So,
Thank you for
guys.
having us.
Thank you for having
And I
us.
would say for me, the people out there that do know me, you can give me a call. If you have any questions, give me a call. Send me a message. Like, I'm available to answer some questions that you feel like I didn't answer today or I didn't get to today.
Yeah.
I'm always there. Like, I know for you a while back you called
Yeah, I hit
me.
you up. I think that was like that last year. I think the beginning of last year or something like that, to ask you a bunch of questions. And I did the same thing with Liz.
Yeah.
Like when she came, I was like, "Hey, Liz, so you bought a house? Okay, so how does that work? How did
Yeah.
you?" Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. Ask questions. Like you should ask. What are you guys like Instagrams? Where can people like find you guys?
I mean, are you gonna put it?
Yeah.
Okay. Or
so,
you want me to?
yeah,
like,
just say
Stephanie _boo. It's a little weird, but
they'll find you. And then what about you, Liz? You want to give them your number? Is it nah,
No numbers, but
yeah.
you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm not super active on there, but I check in, pop in once in a while. It's Malkia, MALKIA, Liz _. And
Copy. I'll put it out there. So she will get back to you in 6 months. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you've really been able to get something. And if you feel like you have something to share with the young people, with our generation, please tap in. I want to hear about it. Other people want to hear about it. And we hope that you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, peace.
is that camera? That one.
I know.